The universe is usually a place where we crave the light. We build our cities under the warmth of yellow suns and we light our halls to keep the terrors of the void away. But on the edge of the pulsar sector, the light became our executioner. We encountered the Light-Wraiths. They are not creatures of flesh or bone, but of high-frequency gamma radiation given sentience. They are the ultimate paradox of the celestial void. In the light, they are invisible and invincible. They exist as ripples of pure energy that pass through steel and shields alike. When they are bathed in radiation, they can burn a human being from the inside out just by standing near them. You don't see them coming. You just feel your blood begin to boil and your skin begin to blister as a shimmering distortion in the air passes through your chest. Entire fleets were found drifting, their crews reduced to charred husks inside perfectly intact ships. We couldn't hit them. We couldn't trap them. Every time we turned on a sensor or a floodlight to find them, we only made them stronger. They fed on our flashlights. They drank our lasers. They were gods of the brightness, and we were shadows waiting to be erased. The Federation realized that if the light was their armor, then the darkness had to be our blade. To kill a ghost made of suns, we had to become the void itself. They formed the 12th Infiltration Wing. The Shadow-Stalkers. We are the ones who hate the sun. Our gear is the antithesis of everything the modern soldier stands for. We don't wear glowing HUDs or energy shields. Our armor is coated in Vantablack, a material that absorbs 99.9% of all light, making us look like walking holes in reality. We don't use lasers. We use carbon composite blades and high-density kinetic slugs. But our most important tool is the carbon cloud. It is a specialized smoke grenade that releases a dense, particulate fog capable of absorbing gamma rays and blocking all visual light. In the light, the wraiths are invisible. But inside our darkness, their own radiation betrays them. Inside the smoke, they glow like neon demons. Inside the smoke, we can finally cut them. I am Captain Silas Knight. And today we are going into the heart of the Prism Station to turn out the lights for good. The Prism Station was a research facility orbiting a massive pulsar. It was designed to harvest energy, which made it a 5-star restaurant for the Light-Wraiths. The station was currently flooded with a constant rhythmic strobing of violet-white radiation. It was blinding. It was lethal. The drop was a silent, terrifying plunge. We used cold gas thrusters to avoid creating any heat signatures. As we breached the outer hull, the radiation hit my sensors immediately. My suit's internal temperature began to climb. Even with the Vantablack coating, the sheer intensity of the pulsar was like standing inside a furnace. Stay close, I signaled through the haptic vibration units in our suits. No comms. No lights. We are ghosts today. Unit 2 Kale gave a double tap on my shoulder. He was ready. Unit 3 Sarah was already moving toward the primary life support junction. The station was a nightmare of brilliance. Every surface reflected the violet strobing of the pulsar. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and melting plastic. And then I felt it. The hair on my arms stood up. My teeth began to ache. A shimmering ripple moved through the air 10 feet ahead of us. To a normal soldier, it was just heat distortion. To us, it was the enemy. The Wraith was standing in the middle of the corridor, basking in the pulsar's light. It looked like nothing, a slight blurring of the walls behind it. But it was there and it was watching the door. Kale the Cloud, I signaled. Kale pulled a heavy canister from his belt and slammed it onto the floor. Thump. The carbon cloud erupted. In less than a second, the blinding violet light was swallowed by a wall of absolute, ink-black darkness. It was a sensory vacuum. But as the smoke filled the hall, the Wraith was revealed. Stripped of its invisibility by the light-absorbing smoke, the entity began to glow. It was a terrifying, skeletal shape of neon violet fire. It looked like a man made of lightning, its eyes 2 burning stars of pure gamma energy. It let out a sound that wasn't a voice, but a high-pitched electronic shriek of confusion. It couldn't see us. Its eyes were evolved for the brilliance, not the black. I didn't wait for it to adapt. I lunged through the smoke. I didn't use a gun. I used the obsidian edge, a 3-foot blade of reinforced carbon. I swung with every ounce of strength I had. The blade passed through the neon violet torso of the Wraith. There was no resistance of flesh, but there was a violent discharge of energy. The Wraith shrieked again as the carbon blade, designed to disrupt energy fields, tore through its core. The entity shattered like a dropped light bulb. Violet sparks sprayed across my Vantablack armor, dying out instantly in the darkness. One down, I signaled. Move to the reactor. We pushed deeper into the station. It was a deadly game of hide and seek. We moved from shadow to shadow, deploying smoke canisters every time the pulsar strobe became too intense. We were a pocket of midnight moving through a world of violet fire. The wraiths began to hunt us. They realized that the darkness was where their predators lived. They started to converge on our position, their shimmering forms rippling through the corridors. Sarah. 12 o'clock. Sarah didn't even look. She felt the sudden spike in radiation and dove to the floor, rolling into the cover of a carbon cloud. A wraith lunged through the air where she had been standing, its energy claws melting the steel of the bulkhead. Sarah swung upward with a pair of carbon daggers. She buried them in the wraith's knees. The entity buckled, its neon glow flickering wildly. Kale finished it off with a high-density kinetic slug to the head. The slug, coated in the same light-absorbing material as our armor, passed through the wraith's energy brain and neutralized the charge. The wraith collapsed into a pile of cooling ash. We reached the primary reactor. This was the source of the station's power, a massive chamber where the pulsar's light was being focused into a single blinding beam. The room was crawling with wraiths. Dozens of them were floating around the beam, their bodies engorged with power, glowing so brightly they were almost painful to look at even through our polarized visors. In the center was the prime wraith. It was 10 feet tall, its wings made of solar flares, its body a pulsing sun of violet death. It was the heart of the hive. "This is going to be hot," I signaled. "Deploy the Sun Eaters." The Sun Eaters were massive carbon grenades. We threw 4 of them into the center of the reactor hall. The resulting explosion of smoke was so dense it felt like being buried alive. The entire hall, a space the size of a hangar, was plunged into absolute darkness. The reaction was instantaneous. The dozens of wraiths, suddenly stripped of their power source and their invisibility, began to panic. They lit up the smoke like a field of violet fireflies. They were beautiful and they were targets. Hunt them down. The battle was a whirlwind of black and violet. We moved through the smoke like sharks. I found myself face to face with 2 wraiths. They tried to blast me with gamma bursts, but the carbon smoke absorbed the energy before it could reach my suit. I parried a strike from an energy claw and buried my blade in the first wraith's chest. I spun, using the momentum to decapitate the second. Kale and Sarah were clear-cutting the room. The rhythmic thud-thud-thud of Kale's kinetic rifle echoed in the dark, each shot followed by the shattering sound of a wraith dying. I turned my attention to the prime wraith. It was trying to clear the smoke, its massive wings flapping to create a gust of radiation that would blow our cover away. "Not today, you bright bastard." I sprinted toward the giant. I leaped into the air, using my thrusters to close the gap. The prime wraith saw me, a hole in the air moving toward its heart. It raised a hand and unleashed a beam of pure pulsar energy. I didn't dodge. I raised my Vantablack shield. The shield groaned as it absorbed the incredible energy. The temperature inside my suit hit 100 degrees. My skin felt like it was on fire. But the shield held. I crashed into the prime wraith's chest, my weight knocking the entity back. I drove my obsidian edge into the center of its glowing core. The prime wraith let out a psychic scream that nearly burst my eardrums. The neon violet energy began to leak out of the wound, spiraling into the dark smoke. I twisted the blade, shattering the internal containment field of the entity. The giant exploded. A massive shockwave of light and heat threw me across the room. I hit the far wall hard, my armor sparking, my vision swimming. The carbon cloud was blown away by the force of the explosion, and for a second, the station was bathed in the violet light of the pulsar again. But the wraiths were gone. With the death of the prime, the remaining entities lost their cohesion. Without the reactor focusing the energy for them, they couldn't maintain their forms. They dissolved into harmless light particles, drifting away like dust in the wind. I lay on the floor, gasping for air. My suit was scorched. My HUD was dead. But the hair on my arms had laid down. The ache in my teeth was gone. The radiation levels were dropping. Kale walked over to me, his black armor looking gray under the station's emergency lights. He offered a hand and pulled me up. "Sarah?" I asked, my voice a raspy whisper. "She's here," Kale replied, pointing to the far side of the reactor. She was already busy setting the charges to scuttle the station. We looked out the massive observation window at the pulsar. It was still strobing, still beautiful, and still deadly. But the ghosts that lived in its light were dead. Humanity had proven the ultimate truth of the celestial void. You can be made of the very stuff of stars. You can be invisible, invincible, and faster than a heartbeat. But if you rely on the light to hide, you will always be vulnerable to the species that knows how to live in the dark. We are the Shadow-Stalkers. We are the dark spot on the sun. We are the reason the monsters are afraid of the night. The Prism Station is scuttled. The Light-Wraiths are extinguished. The pulsar is just a star again. The mission is over. We are going back into the shadows. And it feels damn good to be home.